All right, before we jump in, let's get the important stuff out of the way. This is all for educational purposes, and it is definitely not financial advice. Digital assets are risky, so you've always got to do your own research.
Okay, let's get into it. Today, we are unpacking the data from what might be the most important day in Plazm's history, the Day 94 stress test. Everyone was asking the big question. Is this whole anti-fragile thing just a cool-sounding theory, or does it actually work under fire? Well, the data is in, and we are about to find out.
So first, what are we even talking about here? The anti-fragile challenge. This idea is powerful. It's not just about surviving a hit. It's about taking that hit, feeding off that chaos, and actually coming out stronger on the other side. That was the whole idea behind Plazm's design, and Day 94 was the moment of truth.
To really get it, let's break it down real simple. You've got fragile. Think of a wine glass. You apply pressure, it shatters. Done. Then you have resilient. That's more like a rubber ball. You squeeze it, it bounces right back to how it was. But anti-fragile? That's a whole different beast. It wants the pressure. It uses that energy to rebuild itself, but better. It doesn't just recover, it evolves.
And man, did it get a dose of pressure. On Day 94, the system was hit with a release of over 733,000 tokens. Let that number sink in. This wasn't a small test. This was the single biggest supply event the protocol had ever seen. A true perfect storm designed to push every single defense mechanism to its breaking point.
So, the big question, how did it handle the flood? Let's get into the proof, starting with the very first line of defense, the mechanisms built to control token supply.
First up, burn acceleration. Now, the theory was pretty straightforward. If the price comes under pressure, the system's defense funds can snap up way more tokens for the same amount of money, and then just burn them, forever. And the reality? It worked like a charm. In the thick of it, over just 2 days, a whopping 55,540 tokens were permanently erased from existence.
And just look at this chart. It shows you everything. That second bar isn't a little bump, it's a massive spike. The average burn rate shot up to nearly 28,000 tokens a day. Think about what that means. The system literally took the market's fear, converted it into fuel, and used it to permanently shrink the token supply. It used the stress to get healthier.
So for our very first mechanism, based on cold, hard data, the verdict is in. Burn acceleration, confirmed.
Okay, next up, a big one, staking conviction. Now, the theory here kind of flies in the face of normal human behavior. Usually, when there's fear and a huge supply dump, what do people do? They panic sell, they run for the exits, but the thesis here was that the true believers would see it differently. They'd see it as a buying opportunity. And the reality? A net 50,000 tokens were added to staking right in the heart of the storm.
Just process that for a second. At the moment of maximum fear, the community didn't just hold. They actively locked up more of their tokens, pulling them out of the liquid supply for the long term. Instead of piling on the sell pressure, they absorbed it. That's not just talk. That's conviction you can see on-chain.
So, once again, the data speaks for itself. Verdict number 2 for staking conviction, absolutely confirmed.
All right, so we've got supply getting torched and more getting staked. Let's zoom out and look at how the rest of the system soaked up that shock while keeping the lights on.
This brings us to theory number 3, absorption efficiency. See, the design was never about one single feature taking the hit. It was about layers, burns, staking, liquidity pools, all working together like a shield wall. And the result? An incredible 85% of that massive token release was neutralized before it could even properly hit the market.
And this chart shows you exactly how. You have that giant 733,000 token release coming in, and then look, a slice gets burned forever. Another gets locked away in staking. A huge chunk gets soaked up by the LPs. And in the end, what actually made it through to the liquid market? That tiny little sliver of about 110,000 tokens.
The system's layered defenses worked in perfect harmony. So the verdict on absorption efficiency is, you guessed it, confirmed.
Now let's head down to the engine room. Theory number 4 was all about the yield engine. The idea was that since this engine is fueled by external fees, it should be totally insulated from whatever Plazm's price is doing. So, did it hold up? Well, the data shows it didn't even break a sweat.
I mean, check out these numbers. Right in the middle of all the chaos, 95 new bonds were added. The vault's value held strong at 418 grand. Profits were still being claimed. The protocol's share of the bonds on the platform actually grew. It proved the engine just keeps humming along no matter what.
The evidence here is just overwhelming. The resilience of the yield engine under fire is absolutely confirmed.
And that brings us to the final boss, the one metric everyone watches when things get crazy. Let's talk about the price.
Let's be totally clear here. In basically any other DeFi protocol, dropping a supply bomb of over 700,000 tokens would have been a catastrophe. We're talking a 20, 30, even a 50% crash. The day 94 reality for Plazm? A tiny, and I mean tiny, price impact of just negative 1.5%.
This visual just says it all. You see those giant bars on the left? That's what a normal DeFi crash looks like. That's the expectation. And that little sliver on the right? That's not a mistake. That's a result of all those other anti-fragile gears we just talked about, all turning in perfect sync to build a rock-solid floor.
This is probably the most important verdict of them all. When faced with the biggest supply shock in its history, the protocol's price resilience wasn't just confirmed, it was extraordinary. So let's put all the pieces together now. This was never about one single feature. It was about seeing if the whole, coordinated design can actually work. And here's the final scorecard. You had 5 core theories put to the ultimate test: burn acceleration, staking conviction, absorption, yield, and price. And the data from day 94 is clear. Every single one passed with flying colors. The takeaway here is simple and powerful. The anti-fragile thesis is not a theory anymore. It's validated by data. The system was hit with maximum stress, and it didn't just survive, it actually got stronger.
Day 94 answered the question. Anti-fragile isn't just a label, it's a measurable reality. Burns accelerated, staking grew, absorption exceeded expectations, yield continued, price held. The thesis is proven, the data is clear, Plazm gets stronger from stress.
Thanks for diving into the data with us. And as always, just a final reminder that this is all based on what happened in the past, and that's never a guarantee of future results. Digital assets are high risk, so please always do your own research.